Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, please tighten up the ranks, move forward, and turn off your cell phones. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya lis-salah. Hayya lis-salah. Hayya lil-falah. Hayya lil-falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Please turn off all cell phones and devices. Thank you.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. إخوتي في الله، أخواتي الكريمات، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. It is my pleasure and I am proud to stand among you here again. I haven't seen you in a while. And I would like to thank the Imam for giving me the chance to talk to you today and to carry on this obligation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made farida on us. It's an obligation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it for Muslims to gather every Friday, to come together, regardless of the situation, regardless of where you are. You have to make time for Jum'ah to come, but also to remind each other about our obligations, to talk amongst ourselves, to see each other, to check on each other, and to make sure that we are one community. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make obligations and duties and ask Muslims and mu'mins to practice something unless there is a hikmah, there is a lesson behind it, there is a purpose that we achieve. And so we think that in our understanding that Salatul Jum'ah is one of those. It is mandatory, weekly. You have to check in. You have to see how your community is doing, how your brothers, your sisters are doing. And we come and we try to remind each other. But what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, what the message is, the situation about our collective community, remind each other of our obligations and duties, to seek help from one another, to seek forgiveness from one another. If there is any dealings, if there is any hard feelings among us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings us together once a week to give us that chance to make amends and to solve our issues. Give us the chance to extend our hand to each other, to sit next to each other, pray next to each other, pray to one another. For that is one of the most accepted prayer, is when you pray to your brother or your sister. And so here we are in this blessed place, on this blessed day, we come together to fulfill our obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, to His messenger and His message, and to our community. I'm not sure where I left my glasses, but thank you. Getting old. Alhamdulillah. So today, as I was coming in here, I saw Brother Salim is here. If I knew he was here, he's one of our scholars among us, and I haven't seen him in a while, I would have asked the Imam to let him give the khutbah, because I always enjoy listening to him. But alhamdulillah, I already promised the Imam he's not here, but I'm sure he's watching somewhere. And inshallah, I'll do justice, or at least I'll do part of justice to this obligation. The topic, when the Imam asked me, what do you want to talk about during Salatul Jumu'ah, I said, I want to talk about the Quran. I want to talk about the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By no means, I'm not a scholar in this field, so don't expect any scholarly presentation today. But it is just some commentaries, some things that I've read, some things that I've seen, some things that I lived as a Muslim. When we read the Quran, we live it, and we live by it, and we interact with it. Because that is the nature of the Quran. It is not a dead book. It is not a message that was sent for us to just shelf somewhere and check with it, read it to entertain each other or ourselves, or to learn a fact or two. But it is a live book that when we read it, it speaks to us, and it speaks to our conditions. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His wisdom and in His miraculous way, has made that Quran unique in and itself. The Quran is unique in its style. The Quran is unique in its message and content. And so it made it this live book. Even then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was sent more than 1400 years ago with this message. And he lived a short period of time. But that book, that message that he delivered for us, lives on. Not only that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He challenged mankind in His book to produce anything like one chapter or one even verse from the Quran. And that challenge still goes on till today. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإن كنتم في ريب مما نزلنا على عبدنا فأتوا بسورة من مثله وادعوا شهداءكم من دون الله إن كنتم صادقين. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and if you are in doubt about what we have sent down, then produce a surah like thee, like thereof, and call upon your witness other than Allah, if you should be truthful. And so this challenge to all of us is to ponder, why is this book so unique? What makes this message of Islam contained in this, our Quran, is so unique? As I said, this topic is very vast. Many experts have delved into it from different angles. Many have spoken about the message itself and what it carries. Others spoke about its linguistic style. And if you have the ability or the time to delve into it, check. There is a website called, I believe it's linguistic.com or QuranLinguistic.com, and check it out. It is very interesting. It lays out from a linguistic perspective some of the very unique features of our Quran and why it is superior to any other text that we have seen in the Arabic language, whether in the past or the present. And we believe that it will be in the future as well. Struggling with my notes here, so let me try to do that. So some of these features I would like to touch upon today. As I said, some of them have to do with the style of the Quran, but others have to do with the message itself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this Quran, as I said, something that we can live by, something that we can take and practice and translate that text, that message, into something that we see. And when Aisha, for example, was asked about the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and about his moral character, she said he was a Quran, كان قرآن يمشي بين الناس. He was a Quran walking among the people. Meaning that when you see the Prophet and how he deals with people, how he interacts, it's as if you are seeing those ta'aleem al-Quran, those lessons, those guidance, those moral principles of the Quran are being practiced right in front of your eyes. And so in that, when we know that our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had practiced the Quran in the way he lived, or he lived the Quran, then we as Muslims are also asked to do the same. That we should not have just take the book and just read it, as I said, for entertainment purposes or to get some facts here and there, but actually to put it into practice, just like our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did. And so we can see our Quran manifested in front of us. كان قرآنا يمشي بين الناس. Another feature of the Quran is that it was revealed over a period of time. This is not a book that was revealed at one time in one place and was given to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And some people even challenged the Prophet and asked, why is that? For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that in the Quran. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ في سورة الفرقان وقال الذين كفروا لولا أنزل عليه القرآن جملة واحدة كذلك لنثبت به فؤادك ورتلناه ترتيلا. And the answer comes in the same verse. That people ask, why haven't the Quran been revealed to the Prophet in one book? And the answer said, it's a means for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide tranquility, to provide support for the Prophet Muhammad and his companions. And so you see The verses of the Quran, when they were revealed over a period of time, they were in response to things that are happening on the ground. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started at the beginning of the da'wah, did not start talking to them about salah, how to pray, didn't talk to them about al-mirath, the inheritance laws, didn't talk about none of those. Actually, for the first 13 years in Mecca, the Quran was talking to people about their belief, al-wahdaniyya, talking to them about the Jannah and Nar, talking to them the big fundamental concepts of our faith. Why? Very obvious, because there's only the Prophet Muhammad, he has to convince people about the essence of the message first. First, you interact with people at that level. After 13 years of establishing that first nucleus of the mu'mins, those who became steadfast in their belief, and they moved to Medina, then we have a different reality. Then the community of Muslims, when they found the freedom that they sought, then the message of Islam was easily transmitted to others. And the numbers of Muslims grew. And so the revelations, the Quran had to respond to that kind of community. It had to start organizing the community over a system of life. It started talking about other people that did not exist in Mecca. It starts talking about the people of the book that existed in Medina but not in Mecca. And so you'll find those verses that are talking about the old revelations and the Ahlul Kitab, all of that came later on. It also talked about al-munafiqeen, for those who pretended to be Muslims, but they actually were not. And they were in other times, sometimes plotting and working against the community in Medina. You don't find those verses and those situations talked about in the first 13 years of them. So this book, this revelation, it came over time. And it came certain verses at a time. Why? Because it was responding to the community. And therefore, when we talk about the Quran in our situation, we have to deal with the Quran in that manner as well. We have to know our realities here in the United States, for example. When we talk about the Muslim community here, we cannot talk about certain issues that doesn't even relate to the Muslim community. We have to know the people that we deal with. We have to realize that we live in a society that the majority of them are not even Muslims. And so we have to speak to them accordingly. We have to deliver a message that resonates with them, that makes them pay attention to what we want to say. And so the Quran, by being revealed over 23 years, revealed in different circumstances, even the styles, as I said, of the Quran changes from Mecca to Medina. So all of these lessons makes us reflect on how can we interact with the Quran in our reality here in the US. Another feature of the Quran, and to me this is one of the greatest features about this book, is that every time you listen to it, or every time, especially when you recite it yourself and you read it, it grabs you and makes you part of the discourse. It doesn't let you be an outsider watching from a distance. It is not a book that you're reading about somebody narrating a story about this guy or that guy as if you're watching a movie. Sometimes it does that, but then all of a sudden it changes and you become part of the discourse. For example, Al-Fatiha, when you recite it, and we recite the surah all the time, and when you notice how it starts, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Malik Yawm al-Din. It is talking about the glory of God, describing this entity, this merciful God, this benevolent all of a sudden you find yourself in the next verse saying, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Now you are talking. When you're reading these verses, it's you are talking. You are talking to who? To this God, to this merciful God. That by these descriptions says, subconsciously, that He is deserving of my worship to Him. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. To you I worship, and to you I seek help. صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ. And then it becomes, and it starts as if talking about a community. So it starts with one person, with you as an individual listening to this glory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to this magnificent being. All of a sudden you find yourself swept into worshiping this God. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. And then you become part of this community that you seek in refuge. You want to become part of this community that seeks to elevate and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, and Al-Quran uses a lot of stories. This is another lesson that now we come to know, that experts tell us, if you really want people to listen to you, to listen to your cause, and to know and to kind of identify and understand what you're going through, tell them a story. How many times have you heard from many of these organizations who talk about social justice, talk about whether it is racism, whether it is issues with poverty or issues with homelessness? And what does the media want? You can come and recite all the statistics you want, but the media wants somebody. Do you know anybody who's affected by this? Do you know a family that went through this? Do you know a person that was jailed wrongfully, or a mother that lost her child? Put it in front of us. Let her tell her story, because stories have a powerful effect on grabbing our attention and focusing it and zeroing in on the issue at hand. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many parts sometimes even tells us a story in many different ways, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to make different points. Different points. One of the surahs that it's Ahsan al-Qasas, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it, is the best of stories, is the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. And if you really want to understand the qualitative difference between the Quran and any other books, and no disrespect to Christianity or the Bible or anyone, but read the story of Yusuf in the Bible, in any version you want, and read the story of Yusuf alayhi salam in the Quran. And you by yourself, by the mere reading of that story, you'll come to the realization that this is not a text like any other. It articulates stories, but it has a point from it. When it talks about, for example, the agony that the father of Yusuf alayhi salam went through when they took his son, and then they came back to him and they said he died. And the agony of not only a father but also a prophet. And you see the difference between the description in the Bible and the way the Quran is talking about. It's clearly great difference. Besides that, there is even some historical, factual differences that the Quran claims the accuracy on that regard is based on historical facts. For example, in the Bible, it talks about how the caravan that left from Egypt going to the Sham used donkeys. We know at that period of time, but when you read in the Quran, it's talking about camels traveling from one place to another. And we know, historically speaking, that camels are used for long distance traveling. You don't use donkeys unless they are within an urban environment, should we say. But that's a different thing. Again, with no disrespect to the Bible or to Christianity as a faith. And to illustrate one of these points and how the stories in the Quran grab the attention, and sometimes the style itself kind of makes the reader or the person who's reciting the Quran as if you are part of the story. Here's one in Surah Al-Nazi'at, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, says, هل أتاك حديث موسى إذ ناداه ربه بالوادي المقدس طوى. And the translation to this verse is that, have you heard about the story of Musa when Allah called him into the valley of Tuwa? And so the expectation is that is as if somebody is asking you, have you heard about the story? And you say maybe not or no. And so I'm going to tell you about this story and to describe it to you. But Al-Quran dives into the story without any skipping a beat, if you will. It says, هل أتاك حديث. I'm going to read both parts, and then I will translate, inshallah. هل أتاك حديث موسى إذ ناداه ربه بالوادي المقدس طوى اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى فقل هل لك إلى أن تزكى وأهديك إلى ربك فتخشى. Automatically, the next verse is not talking, is not describing like you would expect. Somebody's telling you, have you heard about the story of when Allah called him? But the next verse is talking how directly, it's ordering. اذهب إلى فرعون. It's as if you are now playing the role in this story, and you're being ordered to go to Fir'aun and speak truth to power. Without any, and it makes, obviously when you are reading it, you have this emotional reaction to the story. And that's what the Quran is very powerful in doing. Every time there's a story, every time there's an emotional reaction that draws you into the story to hammer down a point. That you as a mu'min, as somebody who is carrying the faith, carrying the message, that you are just like Musa. One day he was ordered to go to the powerful Fir'aun and speak truth to power. You here in these states of America, you are asked as a Muslim to carry the message and speak truth to power as well. And you get that reaction when you read the story in the Quran. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. Just to continue with some of these, what some scholars call some gems in the Quran, meaning it points to these extremely simple expressions or words. But in fact, again, it carries with it a whole lot of emotions and charges, and it paints a picture and it puts you into the framework of the topic discussed or the story that is being told. And some of this comes from the use of certain words in Arabic. And here I want to point something, that the Arabic language is not an easy language to learn, by no means. But it's not impossible language to learn. I've seen people late in their years, they were able to learn the language and to actually master it and become even much better than many we Arabs think we speak the language. And same thing, I've seen many of my fellow Arabs who, unfortunately, they can't even read the Fatiha correctly. It's very unfortunate. So it's a matter of, and it's not a matter of Arabs versus non-Arabs. Al-Arabiyyah al-lisan, كما يقول عليه السلام. It's Arabic. Being Arabic is mastering the language. Period. It has nothing to do with your ethnicity, your bloodline. It's the language, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose this language to deliver His message. Therefore, our loyalty is to this powerful, beautiful language that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said, chose to deliver His message. Therefore, we as Muslims have the obligation to learn it. We have the obligation to teach it to our kids. And it's extremely important, and alhamdulillah, that in this masjid and in other masajids, you always find within part of the activities, part of the Saturday school or Sunday school, classes that are available on the internet. There's no excuse. There's lessons for free. There are colleges who offer Arabic lessons. Now high schools offer Arabic as an option, and obviously colleges as well. So I don't think we have an excuse when it comes to learning the language. So becoming an expert in a language, that's a different story. But at least having the ability to sit down every day and to read few verses of the Quran, read them in Arabic. If you don't grasp the meaning, you can, of course, read the translation as well, so you can get the full meaning. But it is an obligation upon us. It's not enough. It is not enough by any means. And I think Imam Warithuddin Muhammad and the Jama'ah, they realized this a long time ago. If you open, and this, just to tell a short story, a few weeks ago, we had a visitor from Tunisia. She was a member of the parliament. And she was a sister that I was always tell her about the community here, about this masjid and the role it plays and the history behind it. And so she wanted to come. She said, "Can you take me to the masjid?" She came into DC. And I said, "There's nobody here yet." She goes, "Well, we can go. It's okay. It's a masjid. We can go and pray." Alhamdulillah, we were here and we called Salat al-Dhuhr. And I showed her downstairs, we were the journal that the Jama'ah issues every week. I think it's a weekly journal, of course. And in there you will find always part where it talks about the Arabic language, talks about lessons and sarf and nahu and words and the roots of the words. And I think that is a profound, that is something that the leadership have realized a long time ago, that for us to be true to our message, we must at least learn the basics, and our leaders, our imams, at least do the effort to master the language. Because as I said, to translate this book, Al-Quran, didn't come for us, as I said, to put it on a shelf, but to live by it, to interact with it, to struggle with it sometimes. It is a powerful tool. And if we misuse it, it can backfire. And we know that there are some groups, there are some people who twisted the meaning of many of the verses of the Quran and misused it, misunderstood it. And by doing so, created a lot of damage, a lot of destruction, not only for themselves, but also for their communities and for their nations even. We know that. It's based on misunderstanding, misinterpretation of this great book and a great tool that if it is used properly, we can go far and we can be elevated to the highest places here on earth before the hereafter. And that brings me to maybe my last point. I'm not sure if I have enough time. To another point, another feature of Al-Quran, that when it talks about the individual, of course, morality and these standards are connected for the individual by the rewards of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reward could come in this dunya, but also it could come in the hereafter, and it could be both. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the most generous. He can decide to reward you here in this life, decide to reward you in the hereafter, decide to reward you on both. And we always think and believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so generous that we ask Him that He rewards us in both this life and the hereafter, inshallah ta'ala. However, when it comes to the Jama'ah, when it comes to the collective, when it comes to the nation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, and the Quran talks about this in many places. قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. Go and see what is the consequences of communities, of nations that came before you. What does that mean? It means that for us as a community, there are things that we need to do. There are obligations we need to fulfill. That we need to establish this Muslim community, and if we don't, then the punishment will come. And it will come in this life before the after. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, go, travel through the earth and see the nations before you. See communities before you. What happened to them when they don't uphold justice, when they don't take care of their people, when they don't be God-fearing, when they don't follow the right path? What happened to them? Go and see and learn. These communities, the punishment comes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't wait for as a community, as a nation, till the hereafter. For a community. But for us and as individuals, you can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His wisdom. He will decide to reward you now, to forgive you, to give you the reward later. That's up to Him, and we express our gratitude. ونحن راضين بما قضى الله سبحانه وتعالى. And to conclude, as I said before, this message of Islam came to balance things. The message of Islam is not a polarizing message. It's not a message that divides. It's a message that unites. The community, the Muslim community, is a big tent. It can bring its people together with all their differences, with all their understanding. There are verses in the Quran that are not very cut, clear understanding. There are even things in the Quran, I say, nobody knows what they mean. Some of the beginning of the verses with these letters that no one scholar can say for sure this is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meant. They can give their understanding, their impression, Alif, Lam, Mim, Kaf, Ha, Ain, Ya, Sad, Taha, Yasin. All these are letters that scholars say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to say these are the letters that form this miraculous book, that language. But it doesn't, is that exactly what Allah means? Allahu A'lam. Nobody can say for sure. And so these are some of the things that we still don't understand. Other verses, they're very cut and clear. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Nobody could say after reading that verse, that very clear-cut verse, that can come and say Allah has a son and has a wife and has this. There isn't. This verse, this makes it clear in our faith, in our belief. Again, with all respect to other community of faith, this is our book, this is our message, and it's very clear. Other verses, it could mean this and it could mean that based on our understanding, based on the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And so my point in here is that the message of Islam is not a message of exclusion, but of inclusion. We have some very basic faith fundamentals that we agree on, and that brings us all together. But if we differ on the little things, if we differ on the means how to establish this or that, it's okay. لِيَعْذُرْ بَعْضُنَا الْبَعْض. We can find excuses to each other. And we can still live together. We can still brothers and sisters and put our hands together and build this community, inshallah ta'ala, and move forward. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه يا رب العالمين. وأنت يا مؤذن أقم الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. وأقم الصلاة. space in the back, so if you have to step back, it creates more space for the people next to you. It's okay. استووا واعتدلوا. Make the line straight. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والسماء والطارق وما أدراك ما الطارق النجم الثاقب إن كل نفس لما عليها حافظ فلينظر الإنسان مما خلق من ماء دافق يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب إنه على رجعه لقادر يوم تبلى السرائر فما له من قوة ولا ناصر والسماء ذات الرجع والأرض ذات الصدع إنه لقول فصل وما هو بالهزل إنهم يكيدون كيدا وأكيد كيدا فمهل الكافرين أمهلهم رويدا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر.
Takbir! Takbir!
Assalamu alaikum. Imam Sharif has some important announcements. If you can stay, please stay.
Assalamu alaikum. If you just have one moment, we have a presentation from the WBC, the World Boxing Council. Presentation being delivered by Ambassador Aaron Snowell, who is ambassador to the Jack Johnson exhibit. So we'll let him make that presentation and then make any comments he want to make also about the exhibit that's going to be taking place right here in the DC area. So I'm trying to give him opportunity.
Assalamu alaikum. Well, brothers, we're here to present some awards to the community from the Jack Johnson exhibit. For those of you who don't know who Jack Johnson was, he was the first African-American heavyweight champion of the world in an age of separation in the United States. The first champion in the United States in the heavyweight division was John L. Sullivan. And when John L. Sullivan won the heavyweight title, he caused a divide in sports, and it still laughs somewhat of the day when he said he would not fight any niggas, plain and simple. However, Jack Johnson fought hard and long when Burns won the title. He chased them all around the world till he caught up with them in Australia, and he won the title, which gave him to be heavyweight champion of the world. Because of that, they chased him, and he had different problems racially. However, how I got involved with Jack Johnson was Elijah Muhammad. When I was young, I grew up around Muhammad Ali. Being a trainer, I've trained some guys. You ever hear of Mike Tyson? Tim Witherspoon. I was director of training for Don King for over 35 years. So there's a lot of champions. But there's a lot of members in this community, like Brother Yusuf here, who fought hard and long to the injustices that happened to Jack Johnson. In this mosque here, in the black community, in the early days of the struggle of our community, they made a heavy contribution to African American history and to blackness. And because of that, I'm the ambassador, and Jack Johnson just got a pardon recently from Donald Trump. And all us were here in the WBC. I'm the official ambassador for the WBC, and we're giving this mosque here to our award. And it says, from the WBC president, Jose Suleiman, and the World Boxing Council, in conjunction with the Jack Johnson exhibit, we proudly award this nation's Muhammad Mosque right here in our community. And this would be hung, and I am the ambassador. Thank you, brother.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we have 3 other members from the community that have been involved in boxing. I know them for over 35 years. Brother Ben, he has been very strong in our community for a long time. He used to chauffeur Muhammad Ali around in our travels. When I come, he chauffeured me, Don King, and everybody around. And we'll award you with the same Master Award that we gave you for your struggle in your community, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you. Another one, brother. You. Okay. Brother Sharif. This brother here, when it comes to boxing and education, it's something second to none. We went around, seems like all over the world, building classes and all of that, schools and all that. But a lot of people may not know your influence in boxing and how many fighters and stuff you managed, you know, and thank you for your struggle. And thank you, brother. And Brother Jihad, Salim. Yeah. Jihad. I'm sorry. want to thank you for the work you do in the community, for all the effort, mainly the food, because it is nourishment to our body, and it helps us stay strong in the struggle. And we're going to keep on trying. And the Islamic Boy Scouts. And this is Brother Yusuf from our community, who's already been awarded many times by the 17th, but he is part of the Jack Johnson exhibit.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The award for the nation's mosque is in the name of all the pioneers, the great Imam Yusuf Salim, and our courageous soldier that the whole world wants, for whom we have, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Imam, Brother Talib. You know, I'm going to say one thing. I took my Kalima Shahada in 1974 at the Islamic Party in North America when this was the Nation of Islam. So I began to watch from the outside the great things that Imam Wafdeen Muhammad did to further our understanding and to help sanctify in the guidance of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So I have now become a follower of Imam Wafdeen Muhammad through studying him nightly until Fajr on YouTube. So I could come in and tell you just about everything about Imam Wafdeen Muhammad from what I learned on YouTube. And I was very happy to be under leadership of Imam Yusuf Salim, and I am a follower of Masjid Muhammad Nations Mosque, and my Imam is Brother Talib, and I hear and obey. I do have limitations based on my health issues, but other than that, I hear and obey, and I encourage each one of you all to hear and obey in accordance with the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. Thank you so much.
So Ambassador, I'm going to call Imam Salim to come up. I want the people also, those the live stream also that might not know him. Yeah, come over here a minute, man. Yeah. I'm on his shoulders too. Give me a hand here, man. Yeah. So he's my brother too. Yeah. We the last two right now of the history of the leaders for this community right here. So we thank Allah for him, and certainly Ambassador Aaron, we appreciate the WBC and the awards that were given to the community and to the members of the community for their hard work. But please let the President know that we greatly appreciate it. And we hope that the exhibit will maximize the value of what it means when Jack Johnson did what he did and the history of what it stands for. Yes, sir. So greatly appreciate it. Thank you as well for all the good work that you've done. Yes, sir. And so I'm going to turn over to Commander of the Muslim American Brothers Association. But I want to mention he doesn't have this tomorrow. Tomorrow again, he mentioned, the Imam mentioned that we got to speak, we got to stand. Sudan is having some serious things that are concerning us. There's uprising going on. So there's going to be a protest tomorrow, and they need to see Muslims standing up for what's right. Muslims are being hurt badly. Sudan is considered a Muslim society, but it being on the world stage right now is certainly giving a bad projection what it means to be a Muslim for those who don't know Islam or don't know Muslim. They're looking at that as some engaged. So it's very important that we stand with the Sudanese community and the American community, and there are going to be several from Congress that are going to be speaking as well tomorrow at 12 o'clock. There's going to be a stage program from 12 to 2, just on the east side of the Capitol building. So if you can, try to work your schedule to be there and stand with those who are standing for justice and calling for justice and trying to reach the conscience of the world to stop the atrocities that are happening in Sudan against human beings. And after 3 o'clock, they're going to march. They're going to gather, and they're going to walk from Capitol Hill to the White House. And we hope you'll be a part of that, be captured. Again, as we say, politicians don't see the light till they feel the heat. Numbers also means concern, and it means that the topic is relevant to a number of people. And the more diverse those crowds are, the more that message resonates. It may not seem like it, but it does resonate, so we need you to be there in support. And we have an obligation to stand. We Anytime we see something wrong, we have an obligation to do something if we can. If we don't, we are disobeying the prophet, President Peter Punishment, because he said, when you see wrong, he gave us a command. You are to oppose it. And he gave us 3 things to do. So if we can do one of those 3 things, we have an obligation to do that. If we don't do it and we can, then we'll be in disobedience. We're disobeying him. Firstly, we're disobeying Allah. Atiyu Allah wa atiyu Rasul. So we disobey him, we're disobeying Allah, because Allah told us to obey him. And that's a command he's given us, so we can act, speak, do something. And this is one of those cases that we can do something. Next month, Rohingya. Same thing on Capitol Hill on March the 12th. We're looking to get big numbers. A lot of atrocities been levied against Muslims there as well. We've been working with Palestine this week. They had a couple of things on Capitol Hill. We've been helping them. Some of our members are working with them as well. And we know we're always working on what's happening here in America, but we have to be connected. We're all under one roof. No matter where you are in the world, it's only one roof. It's only one sky. There are no 2 skies. We don't separate. So we all in the same room, and we have to stand for justice. As Dr. King said, and injustice anywhere is a threat to injustice everywhere. So if you don't speak out against it, you may be next. And we've already seen that. And so take time to stand up. There are many of these things going on. This is the time that our souls are obligating us to speak for what the demand is upon the soul. And that's for life, to have life, equality of life, freedom of life, justice of life, and equality. And we have an obligation to stand. So with that, I want to turn it over to Commander Leonard Bilal. And he has a couple of announcements.
I'll make this as quick as possible, inshallah. First, we want to thank Imam Mongi, Dhaouadi, for the excellent lecture he gave us, Jumah. And we want to make a few announcements. We have several of our community members who have family members who have returned to Allah. The first one I will mention is Miss Pearl Richard Green. She was 107 years old and the mother of Sister Ruth Bilal. So her passing was February the 11th, and her funeral will be held at February the 22nd at Mount Olive Baptist Church in Arlington, Virginia at 11 a.m. Also, dear Sister Sharon Abdullah lost her father-in-law. He was 95 years old, and the funeral arrangements will be determined. Our dear brother Mariam Mukmin, his brother, made his transition earlier this week, as well as our dear friend and brother Hamam Muwakil had a brother who passed. So we make dua for them. On Saturday at 10 o'clock, Mava will have its first monthly meeting at 10 o'clock downstairs tomorrow. So if you're a veteran or you want to be part of the Muslim American Veteran Association, please join us tomorrow at 10. Savior Day next weekend in Chicago. If you can attend, please support that event. And the rest of the announcements, for the most part, are in the bulletin. Tomorrow, I was just brought to my attention that the share program is tomorrow. If you can be here at 7 a.m., you can help put the food bags together that we deliver to the people who need it, and you can help carry the bags with them. We need all the brothers who can help to be there. And lastly, Sunday, March the 17th, there's a teen career fair, and that's going to be held in Virginia. It's on the back of the bulletin, or you can go to the website, Teen Career Fair 2019, and get the information. Thank you for listening. Don't forget your sadaqah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Also those who might have known Brother Daniel Habil in Chicago. He started the Remake the World Veterans Center. His wife transitioned yesterday, February the 14th as well.
If you can hear me, that's good enough. You don't need to see me. But Captain Harrell, who is here with us in the Nation of Islam, with Dr. Shabazz, he is here today with his wife. Oh, look. So if you go outside, you'll see him there, all right? Captain Harrell. And I know some of us that were with the Nation, we know just who that is. He here today with his wife.